welcome back to our Meet the Experts interview series for the Home Builder Growth Summit. Today, joining me is Greg Bray of Blue Tangerine. Greg, welcome to Meet the Experts.
Well, thank you, Meredith. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Yeah, I love that you joined in support and Blue Tangerine supporting the Home Builder Growth Summit. We are digital marketers, ride or die, right? Both of us, both of our companies. Tell us a little more about yourself, about your background in the industry and Blue Tangerine.
Sure. Blue Tangerine, we are a digital marketing agency and website development agency. I personally come from the web development background piece of that. So I'm the computer guy at heart. And I was actually doing a little bit of research for something else. I did my first builder site back in 2000. Is when I launched my first home builder site, Oriole Homes in South Florida. They are no longer with us. They didn't make it through 2008, but
I remember the name though. I'm from Orlando, before I moved to Raleigh. So yeah, I know that name.
Yeah, so I've been doing this for a little while, which is great. And then a few years ago, we realized that websites by themselves really work better when you've got the marketing piece that helps drive that traffic. And so we worked to add that and brought on a business partner who had some skills there. And the new Blue Tangerine has been around for about 3 years in that new format. And yeah, we're having a great time. I love working with builders and helping them sell homes.
That's right. Yeah, and that is the role we play, isn't it? It's this like supporting partner or foundation. I mean, the website, it's really supporting all of their efforts, or even you could use an analogy at the hub, at the center of all their other efforts. So I feel like it's a lot of responsibility. I'm glad to have it, but it is a lot of responsibility.
I agree. I think builders have finally, we've been telling them for a while, right? Just like you have finally embraced the fact that the internet is where the marketing happens today. And so they're paying more attention to it and trying to understand it. And there's a lot that goes into it. I know when I first started, I was doing some Photoshop work. I was writing code. I was setting up the servers. These are all specialties now that you have different people do and everything. And there's no way that you can keep up with it all on your own. So you need a team. And that's where, a support agency comes into play to help with all that.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And something, you, the listener, should be thinking about is, you wouldn't expect us to be experts in rebar or the fine art of sanding, cabinetry and woodworking. And today, certain aspects of marketing, and Greg, you can share with us some of those that you think are candidates, they really require a specialist that can go 100 miles deep on that one tactic. That's how we divide up our team. We have a Google ad specialist who is different than the SEO person, who's different than the Facebook ad person.
When I talk to people about that, I use the medical world as an analogy. You do have your family doctor, your general practitioner, and they can do a lot, right? Yeah. But when you want brain surgery, that's probably not where you go, even though they went to medical school too, and everything else. And so you see how the specialists have emerged there just in healthcare and medicine and everything else. And I think a similar thing is happening in marketing, especially in the digital realm. There's degrees in school now that are so specialized just for specific parts of online marketing that never existed 5 or 10 years ago, and it's just one of those evolutions. It's become more important and it's evolved and grown. There's only so many hours to keep up with it. And that's why, you have to have people that choose kind of which way they want to go.
Yeah, I know it's really not going to be one of my favorite days when I log in Google Analytics and it looks completely different than how it kind of looked just the day before when I logged out at 9 or 10 p.m. and finished a day, right? And you log in the next day and you're like, where'd my button go?
Yeah, I mean, they keep changing that.
It literally changes overnight. And there would be no way for somebody to, it would be a false expectation of yourself to set yourself up to know all of that in depth as you should. But you know what I recommend, Greg, is I tell business builder owners and their marketing managers, it's really more about knowing the questions to ask so that you can manage your outside agency well and hold them accountable. You know, it's not that you don't need to know anything, but you don't need to know exactly how to set the radius on a local search ad campaign either. But you need to know enough to ask, do we need a local search campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, I'm an analogy guy, but when I was in doing my MBA, I took an accounting class, and it was right up front. The professor said, look, we're not trying to make you accountants, but we're trying to give you language so you can talk to your accountant and understand what they're talking about and have an intelligent conversation. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at is, you need to be able to not go completely with blind trust. You know, granted, there's very trustworthy people like you and I out there that you can do that. But there's some, unfortunately, especially in the SEO world, for whatever reason, there's a lot of shady characters that are just trying to pull the wool over their clients' eyes for as long as they can until somebody figures things out and moves on. And I don't quite understand doing business that way. It's not not the way we do it, but there seems to be a lot of that out there. And so you do need to know enough to have that intelligent conversation.
What would you recommend as the key questions, or what are some key things that at the management level that really they should know, understand well enough to converse about? What are some recommendations?
I think the biggest thing that I would recommend somebody looks for is, can they explain what they're doing to you so that you feel comfortable? You know, if they just kind of take this, first of all, try to overwhelm you with technical jargon or things there, then that's a red flag. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there is some technical jargon, and I'm guilty of throwing it in without even realizing it sometimes, you know, just like everybody else. But you need to be able to communicate what's happening, why we're doing what we're doing. You know, again, using SEO as a simple example, you know, to help you understand exactly where in the code I'm going to change this keyword. Well, that's a little beyond where you need to go, but to understand why we're going to work on these pages first and then those pages, or why we're going to do this particular activity, whatever it is, there needs to be some logic there that transcends the technical aspects of it and makes sense at a business level. And I think that's really, again, that's not really a specific question to ask, but more just something that I recommend looking for when you're trying to talk to an agency.
Yeah, I agree. And if the account manager you're dealing with can't give you the why, the strategy behind the tactic, then either it's just a tactic with no strategy. It hasn't really been thought out. It just keeps getting applied to all the clients because that's what they were told to do. Or maybe they just can't explain it, communicate in a way, or articulate in a way that's clear enough, using an analogy, something like that, to make it more, to translate better.
Yeah.
Then it's probably not the right fit. Honestly, I love what you said about the why behind it, because I find that most of our clients, if I give them a why that shows that it's a thought out, that we did it on purpose, it wasn't just an accident, you know, I didn't just crash land into it. We did it for a reason. Here was our reason. Our reason matched their business goals. Most of the time, they're like, okay, carry on, you know?
I think if we go back to the medical analogy, I think there's another connection there too. Think about the doctor that's trying to explain why they want to do surgery to you, you know, and they pull out the x-rays and the MRIs and everything else, and they're circling things. And you're like, I don't see a dot there. I don't know what you're circling. You know,
yeah, but what is that black spot?
Yeah, and why is that one more important than that one? You know, but there's something, right? We've all had those conversations where we walk away from them going, you know, they said a lot of stuff that I have no clue. I'm uncomfortable, or you know what? They said a lot of stuff and I still have no clue, but I'm really comfortable. What was it that made the difference? And it was kind of how they explained it and the time they took to kind of make you feel comfortable. And I think that should apply
true.
on our side too.
Yeah, it's true. On the other side, I think builders, you have an opportunity too, that when you have someone who is clearly has a good strategy, has expertise in the industry, has been doing it a while, working with a number of builders, to trust them a bit too, to let them do their job. On the flip side, sometimes, we get folks that are hovering a little too tight, and it constricts what we're really able to do for them, because we end up kind of taking their order instead of being equal partners in the process of creating something.
I agree with that. And I think some of that comes from the fact that we can't guarantee outcomes all the time, right? Because we're trying things. There's so many variables of what the message is and where we put it and when we put it there and who we're connecting with, and all of these different things that come into play. And it's a competitive environment, right? We do it all perfect, but you're still, I can be a great athlete. I'm not, but I could be. And no matter how great I am, the other guy on the other team might be just that much better, and it doesn't matter because it's a competitive environment. So there's some of that happens too, where you have to say, okay, well, now we got to change our game plan.
It's true.
As we go.
Yeah, it's really true. So what would be you can either go the route of some do's, or you can do some don'ts, whichever way you want to go. Moving into next year and thinking about its budgeting time for next year and builder marketing, what would either be some do's or don'ts that you think builders should be considering right now for their digital marketing?
I think the biggest don't get complacent, because right now, from what I'm seeing, a lot of builders are actually having a great year. And we were all 6-8 months ago really nervous about whether that was going to happen. And when that happens, we start to get so busy just taking the orders and producing and moving through, that we forget to keep planting those seeds that will harvest next year or the year after. And that is, again, investing in your SEO and improving that, or in your social media and keeping those things running. Now's a great time to make those investments, because you should have a little extra marketing budget because of these increased sales, right?
That's right.
And finding ways to prepare for the future. I think don't get complacent right now is probably my biggest message for next year. And it's time to look at if this site is 3-4 years old, it's time to get on the ball and make some changes, right? And move forward.
Yes. I always say technology marches on with or without you. And the latest round of phones that come out around the holidays every year, they're going to have a screen size or features on them or whatever that's going to impact your site, or how well your site does or does not operate on that device. All the different parts of technology, it just continues to grow and evolve. So your presence has to as well. I think a big don't is don't stop marketing, or don't pull your marketing back just because we're headed into a holiday season where it might slow up a bit traditionally, just because you're super busy and you've got a ton of homes on the ground. The way we look at it is your pipeline now of kind of top of the funnel website traffic, those are going to take time to mature. That's January and February sales. Those aren't now sales. Some of them are, but not all of them.
I completely agree.
You're going to cripple yourself. You're going to be looking at second quarter next year going, why is it so slow? It's like because you killed your fourth quarter or your first quarter marketing.
I completely agree. I would add a due to that. I think builders have an opportunity to do better with that nurturing process,
Mm-hmm.
and figuring out how to take these folks that are just interested in just looking, and maybe they've played around with a nice interactive floor plan or whatever, but they haven't made the decision because, well, we'll wait till after Christmas. We're not going to do
Mm-hmm.
that right now. I mean, again, if I had a choice, I would never move in December. There's too much going on,
Yes. Yes.
so I get
Agreed.
that, right? But
Yeah.
I'd certainly spend some time doing my research and getting ready, and
Mm-hmm.
understanding my choices. So
And
we gotta have that content out there and keep improving.
here's a fun fact, and I don't know how COVID will impact this for this year or not. None of us do, but we will literally see a spike on December 26th or 27th every year. Do you guys see that in builder website traffic?
Yeah, I think it's interesting how you see some of these patterns, over time where, and I get it. People are kind of taking some time off, so they have a little more time to do some research, and
Mm-hmm.
they're finally in the let down phase after the party's over, so to speak, right? And so
Yeah.
now I get some things started there. But yeah, it is interesting how you see some of those spikes
It
like
just
that for sure.
ramps right in. That last week of December ramps right into January, and January is always,
Yeah.
compared to late fall. Again, COVID apparently has spawned quite a housing demand surge. So I don't know if we'll still see that kind of a sharp increase, but typically, so, we tell people that, update now is a time to be auditing your site, updating it, doing a thorough review, maybe a little refresh, front end refresh or something to be ready for that last week of December so you can put your very best forward.
I would agree with that. And we see a lot from our builder clients. We see a lot of new year, new budget type of interest that comes up where
Yes.
they start late December, early January, like, okay, we've got this year's budget number figured out, and we've decided we want to, new website or new this or new that or whatever. And I'm going, you're too late for your spring selling season, to be talking about this now. We need to do this in October and November, and so that you can be ready and have these things done, because you're making some big assumptions about how long these things take, which is always longer than you want them to. And honestly, the good folks are busy, and you can't just jump to the front of the line either. You have to kind of
Yes.
wait your turn.
Yeah. No, this pipeline or funnel analogy that we're using is so spot on. And so listeners just understand that if you want to have a great spring market, which I'm not sure we really have that much anymore because of digital marketing, but if you're counting on that, then the spring market actually starts the last week of December on your website. Certainly the first week of January, for sure. So now is the time. Let's gear up. Let's just at least get it audited, cleaned up. What would you say are some of the most important aspects of a builder's website that need to be in complete working order for the new year surge that's coming?
So making an assumption that they've got a solid foundation in place already. It's not like, again, it's not a 10-year-old site that just needs to be
Yes.
thrown out and redone. And there's too many of you out there that have those. So,
Yes.
but making that assumption, I would say that the place to really, where you can get the best update for your effort, I believe, is really working on those floor plans, related to the imagery, the interactivity. You look at tools like companies like Outhouse provide, better photography, better renderings, interactive floor plans, better Matterports, or more of them if you don't have them for everything. Those are the content areas, and those aren't even things that we do. But those are the areas that take that audience and help them convert and help you make that connection. Right? There's that emotional connection that comes, with people seeing a home. You just don't get it when you're looking at this black and white line drawing. It just doesn't make the
No.
connection. And there's still way too many of you that have those out there too.
Yeah. So, listeners, definitely check out my interview with Kevin from Outhouse and Steve from Focus 360. In both those interviews, we discussed this content need in depth. And the analogy I've used on this before, Greg, is your website's kind of like a picture frame. It's important to have a nice frame. It's important to have a frame that matches the subject matter, that looks good on the wall and gives a professional, polished feel to the overall art. But the content of a website is the actual subject matter inside the frame. And an empty frame is just a website about nothing. And a website about nothing is not going to convert leads.
I like that. Can I use that sometime when
you may, of course.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I have said it for years. I've said it for years and years in so many classes that yes, absolutely. But it's just your website. The website is not the star of the show. The content is the star of the show. And this is where builders really struggle in developing content.
I would agree, and it's a lot less expensive than creating a whole new website and all of that, yes. and it will carry over if you do need a new frame at some point soon. You can still it's not a lost investment. So that's why I think that's kind of that first place to really take a hard look at.
Yeah. So, what in this experience of this year, 2020, has surprised you the most? I mean, obviously everyone would say that just the fact that COVID even happened, that was a massive surprise to all of us. So like setting that aside, and then the resulting amount of traffic and sales was a big one. Like who saw that coming? But we kind of take those two pieces. What else has surprised you?
I think I was surprised and impressed at how quickly people were able to pivot and adapt.
Yes.
Some of the creative ways of using, FaceTime and things like this to do tours and be able to provide for real time connectivity with buyers. Mm-hmm. I think that was really impressive. I think those that had made the investments in some of the technologies like InterNow and things like that with the unassisted entry, yes. Those people really reaped some rewards by being, already in the technology game and ready to go. So again, you started to see kind of the divide that was happening between those embracing technology and not really accelerated. And some folks got caught flat-footed and then they went to go get it. And, just like the toilet paper, it was sold out, right? It's like, you can't get any more of these because I'm backlogged and you got to wait because everybody's asking for them now. So, I'm still surprised at the whole toilet paper thing too. I don't understand it.
I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm not a fear, but I rarely pass a pack now that I don't pick up and put in my cart.
You only have like 6 years worth tucked away.
I know. And that really goes to the point of just how behavior has changed as a result of this. Like this was widespread enough. It was felt as a group. It wasn't something that impacted only one state or one region. Mm-hmm. A national event that has gone on for months and months and months. It has led to behavior change. So looking ahead with your crystal ball, what kind of behavior change do you think we need to be paying the most attention to with regard to selling homes?
So I think all the things that we've learned how to do over the last few months and are still learning how to do, maybe we're still polishing a little bit, they're not going to go back to how they were. I think they're going to stay for a large portion of the buyer audience. There will be some that will go back and want to do things the way they always have. But I think when they come to visit, they're going to know even more about you because they've already done that research. And there's going to be some that are going to be just totally comfortable now with the full online experience. We have builders that are talking about these closings that are happening where they have never met these people face to face. And in reality, that's actually been happening in certain places in certain markets for a long time. Just we weren't paying attention. We excuse it, like military buyers, for example, have been buying things without visiting, and things like that from certain builders for years. We've honestly, builders have been selling sight unseen for years because it's a piece of dirt and there's nothing on it. And you're able to sell that somehow, right? And so, who's going to buy a piece of dirt? What's that? But I think really embracing the idea that all these things we've been talking about the last few months and people are doing are going to continue to bear fruit and going to continue to expand. So you need to get comfortable with it as the new way of doing it, not a temporary intermediate fix that's going to change.
What do you think is behind the fact that it's probably not going back to the way things were? Is it a convenience factor thing? Is it an expectation level? Like, what is driving that we won't just one day flip a page and it'll be done? Everybody will have a vaccine. We're done. And okay. Is it the length of time it's going to take? So, by the time we get there, who can remember how we used to do things? What do you think's behind that?
I think a lot of it is simply that the buyers, the customers have wanted this and we weren't giving it to them. And now so when do you pick up the phone and call when you're on somebody's website? It's when you can't find the answer you're looking for. That's when I call, right? So if you're giving me the information I need, if I can figure this out, I don't need to call. So when was I coming in? Yes, there's something physical about touring a home that will always be there, and it's not ever going to completely go away for everybody. I don't mean to imply that, but the idea of being able to narrow that down, instead of having to tour 10, I only have to tour 2 to make my final decision. That type of, I think, is going to change a lot, because we're busier. It's more convenient. Yes. I don't have to drive, or I can do it during my time off when the sales office isn't open, all of these different things. We're used to it from other scenarios. I mean, you look at, the auto industry with places like Carvana and some of those things. I mean, I'm a big Carvana fan. I've bought a couple of cars from them now. So I love that process, but we're becoming used to it with other purchases too. And so new homes have a huge advantage in the online scenario compared to resales because of things like warranty. And because of new materials and quality and things like that, people are more comfortable that if it's not perfect, I can get it fixed, so therefore I don't have to worry about checking and making sure it's perfect ahead of time. Whereas with that resale home, well, who knows what's behind that wall? I don't,
you have no idea. Surprise.
Yeah. So,
and
so I think it's a real opportunity when, often you're probably familiar with this, Meredith, some of these stats from Zillow about, like 60-something% of folks consider new construction, but only 9% actually buy. I was looking at that recently and going, we've really got to recognize that resales are our biggest competitor, not the other new builder down the street. And therefore, what do we need to emphasize better to compete against resales comparatively to worrying so much about the other builder? So.
And companies like Zillow, Open Door, that's one of the sponsors of our event for Home Builder Growth Summit. I mean, they have figured out the easy button approach. I get emails from both of them just because I like to see their marketing.
Sure.
And I will frequently get an email with a listing in my area, 15 or 20 still photos. Right on the email is attached a link to a Matterport or a video. There's a self-tour now button to go take a self-unassisted tour right now. There's a qualify now button to do financing right now. I mean, it's a frictionless experience.
And what's coming, Meredith, they're already doing it, is and by the way, we'll buy your current home for this right now. so that you can just
100%.
finish the whole thing,
Done.
right there. And
no showings, no people you don't know coughing on you in your house. I mean, this is Open Door is brilliant at this,
Yeah.
And so it's this frictionless experience, and that's what Carvana's figured out. So I feel like in the early days in the car industry, it was kind of like CarMax was the first one to really upend the business model. And it was still in person, but it was that you didn't have to haggle, right? So again, taking some friction out, some pain points. So I think, yeah, as we look at next year and moving forward, I mean, we've got to make it smoother, easier, faster, or you're going to get eliminated faster, harder, completely out of the running.
Yeah, I completely agree that customer experience. We had a conversation not too long ago with Jimmy Diffie from Boca Group. I don't know if you know Jimmy well, but he was really shared some interesting thoughts about the idea that the home itself is becoming very commoditized. We're using the same trades, using the same materials. And again, there's obviously no, my home's different, but what we can really make different though is the experience.
Yes.
It's that whole journey. That's really the opportunity to differentiate. Is really about how easy it is to work with us, how smooth it is, how informed you feel, and how excited you are, because there's these ups and downs emotionally, because it's a long process compared to everything else we buy. It's a very long process. And so we've got to keep them excited through the whole thing. And digital can help with that too. We talk a lot about generating leads and sales, but there's a whole nother opportunity after that contract through, closing, to really use technology to help as well.
So audience, you hear, Greg, what he's talking about here is transparency in making it easy to access your information about options and pricing, and get what you need before you're ready to actually talk to somebody. And that's one of the things Alan and I have always appreciated about you and the way Blue Tangerine runs and the way that we try to run our business. Transparency is definitely an important thing, and kind of brings us full circle to where we started, which was we started by talking about explaining why your agency is doing what they're doing, and educating and being that real partner in that. And I know that's something that's important to you, and why you guys have such loyal clients through the years.
Well, thanks, Meredith. It's great to hear that somebody notices. So appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, that's going to bring us to a close of another Meet the Experts interview. You can learn more about Blue Tangerine online, of course. And you have a podcast that you do with Kevin from Outhouse, right? They can access that.
Yeah, that's the Home Builder Digital Marketing Podcast. So it's buildermarketingpodcast.com. Love to have you join us.
Yeah, wonderful. All right, well, please continue to listen to more interviews in our vault. I've been blown away by the honesty, the transparency, the fun, the stories, all the stuff that everyone has been sharing. It's definitely worth your time. We've got the audio version and the video version, so you can either watch it or you can listen to it on your Peloton, whatever works best for you. All right. Thank you, Greg. Thank you for supporting the summit, and I will see you at a builder virtual event somewhere soon.
Thanks, Meredith. My pleasure.
All righty. Thank you.